The CEO is a very unique animal. I'm Alex Gertzberg, and this is CEO Confidential, where we learn about this rare breed, one heartbreak, one victory, one story at a time. This show is sponsored by the law firm of Gertzberg Licata, your ally for business growth. Hey folks, thanks for joining me for another exciting episode of CEO Confidential. We've got a very special guest here today talking with us. He is Terry. I almost called you Waverly. I don't know why. Terry Walkerly. Terry Walkerly. He is an entrepreneur. He is the brand ambassador at the Filta Group. He is the CEO at Filta Environmental NEO, which is Northeast Ohio. And that's because that's his territory. He is an independent franchisee for Filta, which is, I'm fascinated by this concept. And later on, I want you to talk more about it, Terry, after we go through your story. But recycles cooking oil for the food industry. Anyone with a deep fryer or with cooking oil needs, Terry and his 27 employees go in, they manage it, they recycle it. I always wondered what happens to all that cooking oil, and now I know. It's Terry handles it. Over 400 customers. He is the largest in the network, in the Filta network. He's won all kinds of awards for it. Multi-million-dollar company. And Terry, you are the CEO. And in addition to being this wildly successful entrepreneur, what I just learned only moments ago is that you are also a rock star. You are the lead guitar player in a kick-ass local band called None the Wiser, which is a great name. Terry, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks, Alex. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right, Terry, with no further ado, tell me the story of how your culture wittingly or unwittingly changed at Filta.
Yeah, so it was 2018. Actually, I just got chills thinking about it, going back to the story, because I had a longtime operations manager. He was my second employee that I hired. Started the business in 2007, and great guy. We built the business together. I mean, he kind of was my right hand for many years, and as most of us do. We hold on to people longer than we probably should. Don't promote people as soon as we need to. And somehow I still have not learned that lesson soon enough. But at that time, Ryan is his name, and Ryan's moved on and actually has excelled in another Filta franchise in another part of the country. And we were looking at, it was about a year that it took me to say it's time to move on from him. And the things that I was noticing were, there's all these procedural and operations issues, but there was also we didn't really have a culture. I've been, this is my third business that I've been in. I've always had my own core values, my own culture, kind of how I run things. And it's more just being who I am, and that's how it is, not really putting it out there. And so when Ryan left, it was a real kind of shock to me how toxic things were. We had, the day that I let Ryan go, I didn't necessarily believe that he had a camp of people that were going to leave with him. I knew there were people that, had a good relationship with him and may or may not have stayed, but I didn't realize what was actually going to happen. And what happened is then, as always, you come in and you start to realize how that manager handled the situation. And we had people that were were toxic. We're not, really weren't even doing the job that they were supposed to be doing. And, again, this is my right-hand person, so I'm out figuring out how to build the business, and he's taking care of the operations. And within about a month, we turned over that whole staff. So we're in the service business, and we have at that time we probably had about 150 to 200 customers we service on a daily basis. So if you have one route service technician leave, and you don't have anybody to fill in for that, then it just moves up the hill. Supervisors take over. Ultimately, what happened is we had at any given time we'd have 1 or 2 people leaving a week. So I was actually in the midst of trying to, I didn't even look to replace the ops manager because I was out servicing customers. So scrubbing fryers, delivering oil, picking up. It's working 18, 20 hours a day, just trying to, take care of the customers.
And that was, and let me just clarifying question. You weren't already doing that. You had to start doing that because the operations manager left and these people were leaving, or?
That's correct. Yeah. So we didn't have any, the option was, sorry, Alex, I can't come and take care of your fryers today because I have nobody, or I go and do it.
Got it.
So, so I was working from 3 a.m. until midnight, because after I would be going out and doing the fryers, then I'd come back and I'm interviewing people and I'm trying to find staff, and then I'm also trying to run the business. So that was about a month and a half of like that, just chaos. But learning that how critical it is to have the culture and values coming from the top. So that was the aha at the end. It's like, whew, I got all these, now we got guys working, we brought in a supervisor layer to help, or one supervisor at the time we hired to kind of help manage, and then an operations manager above that. And we started on this journey, about that same time, probably in my EO forum, we were talking about culture, and we were talking about core values. And there was a retreat we were on, I don't remember which one it was, and we had a guy come in and talk about personal core values. And that resonated with me because I'm like, as I start to think about what my values are, and, I started to understand that my company then, I'm running the company, I'm the guy. So those are the values that I need to deliver, and those are the people that I want to have around me. And biggest number one for me is freedom. It's hard to take out and figure out how to integrate that makes sense business wise, because what freedom means to me is nobody tells me what to do. I can do what I want to do. We were joking earlier about how we dress and show up for work. I'm standing here in shorts and flip and no shoes at the moment, which people that know me would know that that's true. So as we start to go down this path, we then, probably about a year or so later, I have a pretty good feel for where my values are, and the team that we're building, new service techs, supervisors, ops manager. We decided to then adopt EOS, which is a entrepreneurial operating system. And I tried to self-implement that in the past. It's really, I'm sure you're familiar with what EOS is.
Yeah, we use
For the
it.
audience, it's a strategy operating system, how to run your business. And made the commitment to hire an implementer to help us to put this together. And of course, the first part of that is around your core values and building your mission or core focus. And so we sat around and we started to really think about what is our company, who are our team members, and who are the top people in the organization? Like, who are the best people that we have? And what attributes do they have that make us up? And So, and then obviously looking at, me, right, and saying what do I believe? And so the first thing was like, we're really nice people. Like we really, we treat people with respect. We work in an industry that's reactive, so customers and chefs, and there's all this. Sometimes there's posturing, and then they're having their own levels of stress, and so we can get yelled at for no reason, but you have to roll with it. So our first core value is nice, and I know that sounds kind of I don't know, fluffy or whatever, but it's we treat everybody we encounter with respect, especially when it's hard. So that's our nice value, and it shows in our organization. It's amazing to me how just how nice we are. And the other thing so the next one, so then we start thinking about like we're always there. We customers count on us. We expect people to show up when they're supposed to. All this, and I remember doing we did like a customer. I don't remember what the marketing people called it, but it was we did a survey to just survey the customers, see how things are. And it was interesting in that survey, whatever the question was, it came back and they almost 30% of the people that responded in that survey used the word dependable. And we were like, oh shit, that's exactly where we are. Like people tell me that I believe in dependability. I believe in doing what I say I'm going to do. And so we get dependable, which is our second core value. That our customers, our clients, our friends, our colleagues all can count on us every day, all the time. So, and I'm not reading these, as you can see. There's no board up here talking about core values. So then we start to think about, freedom, right? And we're like, freedom means so much. And how do we lay this into our business? So when you talk about our technicians, when we hire people, we've always been a virtual business. So I'm sitting in an office that is next door to our plant. But I've always worked at home. This office is new. After COVID, we didn't have an office. But we've always kind of worked on the road, and our technicians, they take their vehicles home, they start from there, they go out and do service, they come back to the plant, and then they go home for the day. So we really need somebody that's independent, somebody that can make decisions on their own, and enjoys that, doesn't need somebody over top of them, but also enjoys that kind of, independent work. And so there's freedom in that. And there's empowerment in that. And so our core value is empowerment, that, everybody's empowered to make decisions in the best interest of the vision and of the company and the customer's best interest. So we then land, our final core value is pride, because we talk about, we're a cleaning business. And at the end of the day, and we're a cleaning business in a dirty business. Grease is not very fun to deal with. So, looking good, having a uniform, having clean equipment, having the truck cleaned, showing up. And it's interesting when you think about hiring, you talk about hiring and firing based upon core values. And, as I mentioned, I've owned my own business for 30 plus years. And my last business, I was in the moving and storage business. And, you constantly get, lots of characters to come in, when you're looking for people. And so looking at, over the years, I've learned a couple things when I interview. I always walk people out of the building after the interview. I'll talk with them and I walk outside because I want to see their car. And I want to see, and I walk all the way up to the car because I want to see what's in the car. So if the car is full of garbage bags and, old McDonald's things and, filthy dirty, or I know that's probably how they're going to take care of my stuff and my customers. And I make an assessment of that. Same with how they dress. I'm more flexible. Somebody can show up in, nice shorts and a shirt when it's 90 degrees outside. But I appreciate when they show up, dressed appropriately, whether it's jeans and a collared shirt, clean. So that tells me that they meet that pride, that pride core value. I obviously work very hard and try to, build the business, and I want us to look good. I want people seeing our trucks on the road and say, man, those trucks are clean, and, there's no grease or handprints on them. And it's, that's really what we exemplify. So one of the new things that's come up is relating to core values. So we talk about these every month. We have an all hands meeting. So we bring everybody in the company together. I buy them lunch. It's an hour meeting. What's going on in the organization? We talk about core values. At the beginning of every meeting, I talk about them and, say what they are. And, just to keep it in front of people and resonating. And, we've built a culture that doesn't allow for people that don't line up. It's taken a couple years to do. And today, when I'm sitting here thinking about my organization, I'm like, this is amazing that here's a guy that didn't really put it out there. And now we've done it. And it's made us grow. We don't have, we can bring in the right people. We have all the same challenges that people are having right now with hiring, but we believe we're a great place to work. And the last thing that's just recently come up, we've started to talk about a little bit, is we didn't have our core values, and it's really interesting to think about it this way, is that when you think about and listen to our values, and when we look at them, we're like, man, these values are really about service. Like, they're all about service, right? We're being nice, we're dependable, we're empowered to make decisions, and then we take pride in what we do. So our customers can really, chew on that and know we're going to take care of them. But we're also a growth-focused organization, and we have no value that states growth. And it's not just about like top line revenue or profit growth. It's about having an organization that develops our people, gives our technicians opportunities to be supervisors, our supervisors opportunities to be, salespeople or managers or whatever it is, or just that they are able to go out and buy a new house or have get married, and all those things from a development standpoint are important. So we're talking about where there might be a growth core value to add to our values, to keep our mindset not only on the service, but also that we want to continually be better as an organization, and then also better people's lives, because that's really what jazzes me about the business. It's not, sure, money's great, profit's wonderful, building values is great, but seeing people get better, and I played a part in that. That's what gets me up in the morning.
Terry, I love the transformation pre departure of your operations manager, post departure. And I've got all kinds of questions about the post departure period. But before we go there, because there's a lot of people listening who are probably going through the strain that, I call it like that chiropractic cracking of your business when a key employee leaves, right? And the fear and the stress having to go back from, working on the business to back to working in the business that you had to do. I want to just spend a minute on that period of time a little bit longer, right? How did you, was there stress? Was there mental strain? Was there fear? Was there anxiety? What's happening during that, period of time just after his departure until sort of this aha moment that, okay, I see the problem here.
Well, so, hell yeah, there was stress. There was a lot of fear. We were at growing, and we had a plan for bringing in another manager. So we had a supervisor, and we were going to, elevate that. So we had a plan going. I thought that guy was going to take Ryan's position. And then he decided that was an opportunity for him to go. He ended up being a cop. Great guy, but it just, that's what he wanted to do. He ultimately wanted to be a police officer, and he had taken a test a few years prior, and then it worked out that way. So I was like, oh shit, man, like, how did this happen? And then the people that I trusted the most were the people that were the worst. So, I was like, where are you coming? Where's this coming from? We had a couple guys that were stirring the pot. And I'm like, well, and I'm a get it done guy. So my natural is, it's fight or flight. My natural is fight, fight to the bitter end, almost to the point where I'm, it's stupid to do that. But, I think initially the drive was, I just got to get this stuff done because I can't let the customers down. Because if I don't have any customers, having employees isn't going to do anything. And so I rallied with the handful of people. So so my lead supervisor now, he left because there was a person that was helping me that he was a bad manager, but he was a good salesman, bad manager, wanted to help. And so my current lead supervisor, Angel, left because he had asked for, he had a simple schedule, whatever, for whatever reason. And then when my salesman left, that I called Angel and I'm like, hey, I understand like this, you're a great guy, blah, blah, blah. You have all these skills. Can you come back and help me? If you need the 3 days off or whatever it is, we'll make that work, but I need help. And so he came back, and then, I was out on a route, and I was sitting over at, over on Wilson Mills Road. There's a little restaurant there, and I was waiting. I was just taking a break, and I was sitting out, drinking a cup of coffee. And this guy pulls up in a van. He's got a coffee van, and he pulls up and he's like, hey, I've been applying and calling your office. I really want to learn more about the company, and I want a job. And I was like, and he was a little bit older. I didn't think he was going to be quite the technician guy. And I'm like, I need help, man. So come on. So he came on board, and this guy, so between him and Angel and I, that's how we kind of got past, like we were working like crazy. And that took me from like the anxiety and fear that this isn't going to work out, or poor me, I'm hopeless. And I didn't really feel that. It was just more like I dug in, take care of customers, and then work my way out of it.
There was a period of time in my business, and I know this is true for, like a lot of entrepreneurs, but not every one of them. And I'm curious what your answer here is going to be, just from your own personal sort of psyche. I heard you say that there was a period of time when I had 1 or 2 employees leaving like every week, right? And When that's happened to me, my dominant, because I've got that get it done attitude too, right? I mean, I've got cases and clients that need to be served, right? And these are, trials and the most important and stressful things in their lives. So it's got to get done.
Right.
But I remember my dominant emotion at that time was shame, right? Like I felt like I couldn't keep a business together. Like I felt embarrassment. I felt just kind of like insecurity. I felt imposter syndrome. And that is and now, almost whatever, 6 years later, I told this story in the last episode, so I won't bore everybody again, but I look back now as on that period of time as a necessary step to this sort of like this great place that I'm in now. But at the time, I thought the world was coming to an end for me.
Yeah.
So that's my own shit. That's my own sort of, inner monologue and negativity that was in play at that time. What's happening between Terry Walker Lee's ears during this time? What's the other than get it done? What's the dominant emotion that's happening?
Yeah, I don't know that I would be, I don't think that I was, I don't think I had that shame. I do think that I had, I was, it's interesting to look back and think about it. It was probably more not prepared, like I'm like, and I was kicking myself for not being prepared. And also not, maybe being so heavily reliant and not involved. So then I'm like, well, I caused this for myself. So I guess maybe feeling a little guilty, like more guilt was probably more, because I knew this. We were in my forum, EO forum, we were talking about, it took so long. And then, I didn't serve my team. Not that any of those people may be here. There's one guy that's here that still works for me that worked for Ryan, and then my bookkeeper. So two people. And again, that's not a dig on Ryan. It's just that was the time. I think what I've learned today, I think guilt is probably part of it. That I have a responsibility to the organization and to the people that work here to, not put up with, people that don't line up with our values or line up with how we do things. And, just as a human, you got to treat people right. And so, and it's not just managers, other people in the organization got to treat people the same, so it's, I guess I felt guilty about that and responsible for, how screwed up it got.
Do you feel more prepared now if you lost a key employee than you were back then?
Well, that's a great question, because I've just released my current operations manager. So now different circumstances. And Jeff helped us get through this core value search, and he's a core values fit all the way. And if, EOS is get it, want it, have the capacity, he doesn't have the capacity anymore. Yep. And what I've learned from this is that he has, the organization was set up that everybody, so I let him go on Tuesday, actually, of this week. Now, I was prepared, so I have a person that's starting that has the capacity to take us to the next level. So I prepared myself for that. And then the other thing that's happened is, I sent because, we're virtual. So I send a video message out to everybody to tell them what happened, and said, here's why. And it's not about Jeff, it's about the business and, our future and our vision and where we're going. And although he met all of those things, he met his capacity. And, what that tells me is that we've built a culture in an organization that recognizes we're all moving in the same direction. And then, people have, there's not a sense of mutiny or there's more sense of loss. People are like, gosh, we missed that, but we understand because we're all working in the same direction.
Yeah. Terry, a couple of rapid fire questions here. Who was your EOS implementer, if you don't mind sharing?
So I work with a gentleman named Roy Getz. So he's actually out of Columbus, and we chose him because he was the past chairman of the Ohio Restaurant Association. There's some strategic reasons why we decided to have him involved. And he was he's been in the food industry.
Right. You gave these great examples of how you reinforce your core values. You talk about them a lot. How you hire for them based on, different, and I'm sure we're just scratching the surface here. I'm sure you don't, there's a lot more to it than that, but I do want to scratch the surface a little bit on in hiring. Are there questions that you ask your employee or your prospective employees to weed out and extract from them the extent to which they fit or don't fit your core values?
Yeah, so we've been working on these for a while, trying to get them honed in, and we do not have the interview guide fully baked, if you will, but we do have. So nice questions are really about, you can get there, we ask questions about how did you deal with this if someone comes in and is parked in front of you, or cuts you off on the highway. How do you handle that? That actually tells you two things about them, and whether they're nice, and then how well they drive, their driving attitude, or they, you've experienced a customer that is having a bad day, and how do you handle that? Independence, like we ask about jobs that they've had. And what we ask questions around when this happens. So an example, if we don't typically hire from the industry, interestingly enough. But so, a lot of guys, like, if you say we have people that have been in maintenance in other areas, and you say, well, you've been trained on how to fix this, and it's not working the way it's supposed to. But you understand it. How do you go about making that, learning that there's a problem here? How do you go about making that decision? And what are the steps in troubleshooting that problem? That then kind of gives us an idea of, can they make a decision on their own? Are they independent? And will they communicate to us to let them, because the worst thing you want is somebody that's empowered to make decisions, but not let you know that they made the decision.
Sure.
And solve the problem. So yes, we do ask, we do have, and we're trying to refine that because we have a number of people that do first interviews. So having a guide and some specific questions around each of those values helps.
And other than talking about it at your all hands meetings, what else do you guys do to reinforce your core values in your company?
Well, so obviously leadership is living them, and showing by example. They're showing they're dependable. They're doing all of following through with that. And then in the reviews, so in our reviews, so in the first year, an employee that joins the company, they get reviewed 3 times. So they're getting reviewed at 90 days, 6 months, and a year. And at each one of those reviews, we're using the kind of the people analyzer that EOS has put together to talk about core values and then make sure they get it, want it, and have capacity to do it. And then we're discussing those at each time. And we're also trying to illustrate what value they exemplified. The other thing we do at our monthly all hands, so we have an employee of the month every month that we do recognize somebody, and we talk about the core value that they exemplify.
Yeah.
So that, in addition to the other reasons why they're there.
Yeah.
So interestingly too, when COVID hit, the people analyzer was a big piece of how we brought people back, because we experienced an 80% loss in revenue overnight.
Sure.
So to save our business, we had to lay everybody off. And it was also there's two things here. When you talk about preparation, if you go back to where we were at in 18, there's no way, it would have been much more difficult to come out of that at that time than it was this time, because I was prepared in a lot of other areas and learned a lot. But then also, it reinforced our values, because when we laid everybody off, I didn't know what was going to happen that March, 16th. But I needed to know we had to save the business, and that was the message. And everybody's like, I know we're going to get through this, and we might be back in 3 weeks, or we might be back in 3 months. And then once that happened, we started bringing people back. That's how we looked at it. We said, we want everybody that wants to come back. We want them to come back. There's a few people that we could take the opportunity to probably not bring them back because they don't line up. And it was easy to use that tool to bring them back. And we brought everybody back that wanted to come back. We had a few people that, couldn't wait it out because, they were at where they were at in the order. We were bringing people back, our A+ guys and our, and our A- guys were just down the pecking order as business came back. So, I don't really see people as A+ or A- now that I said that, but it's just how we brought people back and what business was available for us. So,
you do see them that, as I think most leaders do, when you use something like the people analyzer, right?
Right.
Because there are people. I mean, it's right out of the book, right? I mean, there are pluses, and for every, it's right butts and then right seats. The right butts is a core value fit, which is
right.
It in my mind, it's an A+ player if it's a perfect core value fit, and that's the right butts. And then the right seats is if you check all 3 boxes, that's an A++ player, right?
Yeah. That's just my niceness coming out saying that I don't want to label somebody as an A+.
Sure. I think they get it. I mean,
no, absolutely.
Yeah. Particularly, it's really funny because I remember going through that same exercise where to extract your core values, you identify the people in the company who you would want to replicate because they're so perfect. And then what is it about them that makes you make that call? Everybody here, when we did that here, everybody picked the same team members,
Same thing happened with us. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah. So I think they get it. All right. I've got 2 more questions for you. Do you talk about your core values with your customers? Do they know what they are?
So we are implementing that. We are not in a daily basis. We don't really have a plan for that, or have had a plan for that. We do have a plan for that in the future, because I think that, they come from our customers too.
Yeah. And then we're working on that too. There's and this is true on the employee side too. There is this sort of superficial level of core value awareness, right? So you post it everywhere, you talk about it, you I don't know, just like we've had quizzes, right, during our all hands meetings. But then there's this like deeper level, this immersion of the core values, and that's what I think that's where the magic is, and that's also the hardest part, is how do you get your customers to be able to, and your employees to be able to just say, these are these are the core values of this company. And I know that because, and it's more than just, oh, because it's plastered on their wall. I know that
Right.
because ... And you know what I mean? That's that deeper immersive level. Okay. So my second question though is, you said earlier that when you solicited feedback from your customers, the one thing that kept coming up was the word dependable. This is something that we're trying to work on too, and that I know so many other companies and CEOs are working on, and that is to get good feedback from your customers about you, right? Without bothering them too much about it, without making it seem like you're insecure about it, right? I mean,
Sure.
what is so I'm curious, how do you get good feedback from your customers?
Well, so we, when COVID hit, we doubled down on marketing and really more not from I took that as an opportunity to do exactly this, figure out how we can better talk to our customers. Again, we're in an industry that's reactive. We're in an industry that has a lot of turnover. And then, of course, at the time of COVID, when COVID, so that Sunday, the governor said, restaurants are shut down for indoor carry out only, right?
Yeah.
And then Monday morning, we got on the phone, we called 350 customers. So everybody in my organization, I was working on, like, how do I save this place? And it was interesting is that we called everybody and everybody's like, oh yeah, we're going to be here tomorrow and everything's going to be fine. And, well, nobody reacted that fast. And then by Thursday, they're like, yeah, we're done, But what we realized is we didn't have a very good communication chain because we were talking to, our chef contact, but not the owner. So we brought in the marketing team to really put together a communications package to say, here's how we're going to communicate. Here's the infrastructure to do this. And then we can deploy that as we needed. And it was the smartest thing, one of the smartest things I ever did, because during that time, as you know, I mean, we're still in it, not to the level we were then, but we needed to be able to communicate to people, not only when they were down, but also when they started coming back. And so that engagement was put in place. And then we started to just think about the questions that related to how are we doing with you? What are, I think at that time, the first survey was, around, we introduced a disinfecting and sanitizing business. And so we were fishing to see if people were going to be interested. And that's where some of those questions came in. And now we've just continued to refine that to just create some engagement to understand how things are going.
So how do you, are these emails? Are these like cards? How do they get those questions?
So we do both now. So we have an email chain, an email list of our customers and the contacts that need to be touched. And then, so that's a communication piece. And then we've created postcards that our techs can leave behind. So, most of our customers have a bin where their invoices go in by the office or slide them under the door. And then that has our email and the postcards aren't necessarily providing feedback, but we've used the postcards to develop that list for us. So, is this contact still here? Is this the right email address? Here's who you need to contact if you're having these issues. So we've kind of created that. The other thing that's come out now is we're starting to look at QR codes where, since QR codes prior to COVID, nobody knew how to use. And then COVID taught us how to use them again, and so there's a ton of value in that. getting and if everybody's on their device or in front of a screen, like scanning a Q, it just, so there's a huge communication opportunity there.
Yeah. You know what, another hack with QR codes that I've learned, totally off subject, but sort of on subject, is there's a curiosity factor there that makes people want to do it. And it's a great way to get reviews.
Yeah.
Right. Like, leave a review. It's as simple as,
That's
taking a picture
a great
of this QR
idea.
code. I
I want them to be like a star though, or like a, so
yeah.
You want, this is CEO confidential, so I'll share I have a star tattoo on my back. It's a sun, and it's got like a little moon thing in the middle of it. And there's a band, Godsmack, that any of those rockers out there would know. So it looks very similar to the one Godsmack sun. It's not the Godsmack sun, and but it's all about, I always want to have a sun on my back, and so it'd be cool to have a QR code that looks like, that just doesn't look like these dots, or have a hidden
Folks,
message inside of it, So.
if you look closely at Terry's tattoo, at each point it says, "Nice people, dependable, empowerment, pride." Terry, this was awesome, man. Thank you. I learned so much. I joke, but not really, that these interviews that we do on CEO Confidential are like totally self-serving, so that I can learn from you and make my own businesses better. And I have today taken copious notes that I can use. I mean, core values is just so it gets such short shrift, and very few companies do it right. Most companies, I find, put a lot of time and energy into articulating them, and then they sit on the shelf, or they're just these platitudes that are in some corner of the boardroom. And you guys have done it well. I'm so glad that was your story today. And the other thing that I really took out of this, which is so heartening to me, is your story has such great reminders that out of every crisis comes beauty and comes growth and evolution. And I actually counted several crises. The original one that your story started with, and then the one from the pandemic, and even you might say there's a third one that was not really a crisis, but your release of the other key employee just now. And it's such a there is great growth that came out of every one of those. And when you're in it and you're the CEO, it sucks and it's emotional. And I don't know. I mean, you don't really. It takes a lot of those crises to know, when you look back at them, that not only are you going to be all right, but you're actually going to be better because of it.
Yeah.
So such great reminders of that from your story. So thank you for
thank you, Alex. This was awesome
for sharing. Yeah, this was great. Folks, Terry Walkerly is this amazing entrepreneur who happens to also be on LinkedIn and Twitter. Friar King is your Twitter handle. That's interesting.
So is my license plate.
Oh, is that right? Friar King, FRYERKING. The company website is gofilta.com, and then you have to get to the Cleveland location through that. Is that right? Because it's a franchise, right? But it's easy to navigate too, right? So check him out, and for sure check out this. I'm for sure checking out this rock band. What's it called again, Terry?
None the wiser.
None the wiser.
We're actually playing at the Doghouse. We don't have a website yet, but we're playing at the Doghouse in Avon Lake on October 9th.
Perfect. Folks, go flood the Doghouse that day and go check out Terry. And if you're watching or if you're listening to this and you're not watching it, you'll understand why when I before starting this podcast, I asked Terry if he was ever a professional surfer or skater. The answer, shockingly, is no. But he is a rock star, both literally and entrepreneurially. So Terry, thanks again. Thanks for sharing your story with us. I appreciate it. And folks, we will see you back again next time on another exciting episode of CEO Confidential. Terry, thank you. Thanks for listening to CEO Confidential. I hope you enjoyed it. Visit us at ceoconfidential.net and visit our sponsors, the business law firm of Gertzberg Licata and Cover My Six, a business solution that flushes out and repairs legal minefields before they blow up in court. We'll see you next time right here for another episode of CEO Confidential.